The Beatles consciously and unconsciously left a lot of mistakes in their recordings. But what would you say about all those sounds that are hidden in some songs? Some we've heard for years and other sounds you probably never noticed. So today, thanks to remixes and isolated tracks, we will talk about some of the hidden sounds and their stories in Beatles songs. And of course, earphones are recommended. I Want You, She's So Heavy. It was the first song recorded for the Abbey Road album, but one of the last songs to be finished. The band gathered in the studio to mix the song on August 20th, 1969, marking the final time that all four Beatles were together in the studio. And the song is a great example of the Beatles and Billy Preston's ability as musicians. For example, the great percussion by Ringo. Paul's great bass line. The incredible guitar playing between John and George. And of course, the great Billy Preston. However, around the 4-minute 30-second mark, after John's scream, we can hear a hidden voice. Someone shouts. Let's listen again by isolating the channels. Experts agreed that this scream comes from the drum track. As a bonus, the song was so long that they didn't know how to end it. They thought about fading it out, but John Lennon told Geoff Emerick to cut the tape. Emerick looked at Martin nervously, but they ended up doing what Lennon had asked. And so, the song ended this way. A Day in the Life was one of the band's most ambitious recordings, and because of that, it has many elements to explore. One of them was the sound we all know today, but which in 1967 could only be heard on British LPs. This fun Beatles track was recorded on April 21st, 1967. It was preceded by a high-frequency sound of 15 kilohertz inaudible to the human ear. But a close frequency set by Giles Martin in the 2017 remix meant that 50 years later we could hear it. Although we're not supposed to hear it, he put in a similar frequency to get an idea of how that sound is there in the original 1967 cut. I'm Only Sleeping was an innovative composition by John Lennon, and we've all heard this yawn from Paul at minute 2. But a few seconds earlier, if you listen carefully, you can hear something else. If we isolate the tracks around 1 minute 57 second mark, someone, possibly John, is heard saying, "Yawn, Paul." Returning to the Abbey Road album, You Never Give Me Your Money began the album's iconic medley, and it also has some sounds to consider. At around minute 3 with 46 seconds, you can hear some voices and someone in the right channel shouting, "Bloody hell." This is one of the best-known examples, and it's not that hard to hear. At around the 2 minute 57 second mark, we can hear Paul say this.
Then you begin to let her under your skin. Then you begin.
Although engineer Geoff Emerick was not present for this recording session, in his book Here, There, and Everywhere, he explains, just after the start of the third verse, you can clearly hear Paul curse off Mike, saying "fucking hell." John Smith had a vivid memory of John Lennon pointing that out when they were playing the tape back. "Paul hit a clunker on the piano and said a naughty word," Lennon gleefully crowed. but I insisted we leave it in, buried just low enough so that it can barely be heard. Most people won't ever spot it, but we'll know it's there. Let It Be, like almost all the songs of that period, had some problems. For this song, George Harrison did a solo for the single, produced by George Martin. Not very satisfied with the result, and under the direction of Phil Spector, they made another solo for the album. Both solos were played by George, and were recorded over the master that the band recorded on January 31st, 1969. On this backing track, there was another solo that was left underneath thanks to the solo overdubs we already heard. Let's listen. Let's isolate the tracks to listen a little better. Thinking back to the recording methods of the time, it was common practice to leave out details or guide sounds on backing tracks to overdub vocals or solos. Let It Be Naked has another different solo, being an unusual recording of the Beatles for having several different solos. Disclaimer. In this particular case, there is nothing hidden that can be heard, even if we separate the channels from the original recording. But it took 43 years for it to be discovered almost by accident that there was a hidden solo on Here Comes the Sun. The solo, which failed to make it onto Abbey Road, was found by Harrison's son Donnie, Beatles producer George Martin, and his son Giles during a visit to the studio. Let's go to the video.
And here was a guitar solo that he played.
Totally different to anything I've ever heard.
Returning to songs from the Let It Be period, we return to the variations between the singles and the album. In Get Back in its single version, something can be heard at 2 minutes and 32 seconds. It sounds like maybe George saying, "Let's give him some night nurse." Night nurse being a cough-cold remedy. Paul's voice does sound a bit odd on this track. Maybe they were joking about it. Another barely perceptible sound is in For You Blue, a song also from Let It Be. At the beginning of the song, John tells the listener, "Queen says no to pot-smoking FBI members. We'll try to turn it up too loud so it can be heard better."
Queen says no to pot-smoking FBI members.
To close the video, All You Need Is Love also has interesting sounds, and although these are not exactly hidden, in the final part we can hear fragments of some famous songs, such as In the Mood by Glenn Miller. Also, Bach's two-part invention in F major. And the English folk song Greensleeves. Well, that's all for now. Comment which ones you knew, and if you would like to see a second part. Please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for your time. This is Music Box.